This week on Married to Medicine Season 11 Reunion Part 2.
You know your daddy's door, looking for your mother daddy. It was me. It was talking to me about my dad. You were there with cameras. You have never been anywhere without a camera.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Married to Medicine Season 11 Reunion, the second part, and oh my gosh, do we have a lot to talk about. Let's get right into this. Okay, as I said, you guys, there's so much to unpack here. So we begin the second part with this conversation where we left off last week. Contessa, Simone, and Toya were talking about the fact that the word on the street for some time has been that Damon Kimes has side pieces and maybe even babies. Simone in particular said that a woman told her personally that Damon asked for her number. Heavenly was very quiet, as she usually is when this topic is brought up, and all she can say is, "Do y'all believe her?" And Contessa says, "Well, maybe it's true. You seem like a miserable person to be with. I hope he's getting some joy." To which Heavenly then says to her, "Your titties are way over there. Don't talk to me with that botched surgery." Just a reminder, Contessa had a mastectomy reconstruction because of her family's history with breast cancer, specifically her mother. Heavenly just mocked a woman who had surgery to prevent breast cancer. You see, this is the type of stuff Phaedra was talking about when she called this woman the devil's daughter. This is exactly what she's talking about. Jackie then want to act like she's crying for 2 seconds. "You know what really hurts me is that they were good friends." I'm so over Jackie, I really am. Simone and Andy then have to tell Heavenly for the 10th reunion that her social media commentary gets in the way of her friendships. Heavenly says, "Andy, well, would you like me to stop?" And he says, "Well, it's not me who you're offending. It's them. They're the ones that want you to stop." Contessa says to Heavenly, "I thought we had an authentic friendship, but based on the things that you've said, it makes me wonder if it was even real." And they kind of go back and forth, but they kind of move on. So then we take a look at Sweet Tea's season package, her dating event, her baby journey, and the drama of it all between the exes. So after watching all of that, Sweet Tea shares that she had 2 failed attempts with IUI, so now they're going to do the IVF route. Andy brings up the conversation that Sweet Tea had with Dr. G, where Dr. G had said that he had a 2-year timeline to have a baby. Simone brings up how in age gap relationships, when you have small children, it becomes difficult to raise them. "You have them, Andy, you know," she said. Shade. And let me tell y'all, this is not the first time Simone shades Andy at the reunion, and I'm kind of here for it. But her point being is, like, she understands Dr. G because, like, nobody wants to be at a high school graduation when they're 80. That's what she said. In regards to the speed dating event, Sweet Tea says that she did it because for her, she wants other girls to find men that will love on them, support, protect, and provide for them. And then Quad says that she agrees with that. She says, "A man should provide for his woman, and I also think that he should make her feel comfortable when she speaks to him. He should not shun her. He should not dismiss her." Andy says, "Are you talking about Dr. Greg?" And Quad says, "Yes." Oh my lord, Quad, let it the F go. Every chance you get, you're talking about this man and how bad he is. You're so bothered, and I kind of feel embarrassed for her. Like, I'd be damned if I'm still upset about a relationship I had that ended 6 years ago. 6. Just don't say anything. Sweet Tea then says to her, "You're so worried about Gregory." To which Quad says, "I'm not worried about him. You have my scraps that I let you had. You're the one that crawled into a DM and promised him something. You promised him a baby and lied that you would give it to him, and you haven't even made good by that." Sweet Tea says, like, "What is it? Did you not get enough from the divorce?" Andy then asks Sweet Tea how does she feel about going into the couples trip, and Sweet Tea says that she felt good going in, but she suspected that drama would happen. Quad then says, well, this baby keeps talking about me. I have a residence in her mind. You want to be me. You can never be me. And then Heavenly's sitting there like a cheerleader for Quad. And she called you a drunk. And Sweet Tea says, oh, yeah, you do have a history with being drunk. You've had 2 DUIs. You're an alcoholic. Ooh. After Sweet Tea said that, now all of a sudden, every damn body, Heavenly, Quad, and even freaking Andy, well, don't say that. That's too far. Wow. But we can sit up at this reunion and accuse someone of snorting coke, right? We can do that. Because that's what Quad did to Mariah. But all of a sudden, this is too far. Sweet Tea then says, okay, maybe she's not an alcoholic, but she has a problem with alcohol. She has had 2 DUIs. And we saw her being drunk that night at that couple's night event. And she's right. So they talk about that crazy night where Quad was acting crazy. And Quad says, I'm actually okay with the Luncfords and I approve of the... Girl, let me just say this. I don't like to say this because I always try to see the good in people. I really do. But after this reunion, I can say Quad is not a nice person. For Quad to have thrown it to Sweet Tea's face with such hate, to say that she hasn't had a baby and she hasn't been able to have one, that's one of the worst things I've ever heard. How dare a woman to another woman, a human to another human say something like that, especially when Quad herself is trying to have a baby. Quad better be careful with that, with what she says. She better be careful. And I know that some of Quad's fans have said, oh, well, she did promise him that. I don't care what she promised. I don't care if she promised him a goose that lays golden eggs. Nobody should ever go so low and come for a woman's fertility. It's not okay. Ugh. Okay, so then they move over to Sweet Tea and Heavenly's feud. Andy brings up how Heavenly said that Dr. G wasn't respected in the medical community. Heavenly blames Sweet Tea for starting it, but she does say that she feels bad for saying it, and she does apologize, which I thought was good. A question comes in asking, how can Jackie, Dr. Jackie, sit there and not say anything when her friend attacks a woman's fertility issues? And they're referencing, when Heavenly was sitting up there with Carlo King, talking about scrambled eggs and saying this, and she even had said that her dead mom in hell had a better chance of having a baby than Sweet Tea. Just deplorable things. And y'all want to know what Jackie's response was? I didn't want to get any on me. Wow. This is why I don't respect Jackie. She's making money dealing in an industry where about women's fertility, but she has no comment on this? Wow, damn. That's something else. Heavenly does say that she respects the fact that Sweet Tea even showed up today, and Sweet Tea accepts it and says, I received that, Heavenly, and maybe we can be cordial. I could probably even unblock you. So then the men begin to arrive, and they have Dr. G sequestered in a different room, which makes no sense to me. Kind of reminded me of OG from Basketball Wives being put in some trailer without the other people. And then a producer came in and said, well, we need to protect everybody, which makes sense. I just personally think it's a little crazy that the man that was almost attacked is the one being isolated, not the one who almost did the attacking. But it is what it is. When all, we see the men all grouped together, and Eugene. Listen, I like Eugene, but when he's in front of King, he'll gas him up. When he's in front of Greg, he'll gas him up. He kind of flip-flops, depending on who he's with, but he doesn't mean any harm. So then they bring out Dr. Mimi. She looked good. I don't really see the need of her being here, but she was. She looked really happy to be there. They showed some of her scenes. Apparently, Quad and Mimi are close, and they've spent time together. Quad is talking about how fun Mimi is. They then ask Mimi about, how does she assess Sweet Tea's journey on the show and all the things that she's going through. And she speaks about how your first year of marriage can definitely be hard, and it can be even harder when other people are, making things even more uncomfortable. And Sweet Tea says, yeah, I feel like there was a lot of instigation, like, from others that were definitely trying to make the situation worse, but, like, trying to compare us. And, Quad says, yeah, that's kind of inevitable, but there is no need to compare. We are, and it was like, okay, Quad, really, again, there was no reason to throw a dig. Just say what you say without the dig. So then they show a package of The doctors, we take a look at some of the medical scenes, including when they went to the White House. So after watching that, Jackie talks about women's rights and says all women need to come together. Which, not gonna lie, I'm just gonna be 100% honest with you guys. It bothered me a bit to hear her say that, because yes, women need to come together, but how are you going to do that in the bigger picture when the women you have around you don't really uplift them? Like, you drew the line when it came to Buffy. You've drawn the line when it comes to Sweet Tea. You get what I mean? And like, we know what her comments have been in the past. But, maybe that's just me being petty, but it is important for this conversation to be had. And they did touch on how this administration is slashing so much funding and research on these important issues regarding women. So I'm glad they educated the viewers, even if they're not the ideal educators, but it is important. They talk about some stepmother stitch. I don't get it. It's female anatomy. And they talk about Botox. Contessa says that she does it, and Scott does it too. Andy then asks Mimi to go around and say little short observations to each of the women and like what they need to do or whatever. So she does that. So then it's time for the woman to take a break because it's time for the husband segment. So they get there. Andy wants to acknowledge that this is the first time that Dr. G and Kirk are seeing each other since the couple's trip. He wants them to shake hands, but yeah, that's a little too much. It didn't happen. So they take a look at the Greg and Quad boyfriends feud. They didn't really talk about that quite yet. First, they go back to the beginning of the season, Greg versus Damon. So Dr. G was very upset by Heavenly's tweet. He says, I care about my practice. I care about my job. I serve people. Of course I care about that. Andy asks Damon about this. What if someone would have said this about you? To which Damon says, I could care less. No one's going to make me fall apart. I've been accused of being a cheater. And you, Greg, you couldn't even speak on my character. You sat there like a coward. Oh, jeez. Okay. Damon is talking about last season when he asked Greg, do you think I'm a cheater? Yes or no? He's still mad that Greg didn't say no. Greg says, well, since I'm so sensitive, why are you so sensitive with my wife saying you're a cheater? That has nothing to do with your profession. Then thank God that finally Cecile and Eugene stood up for Greg and told Damon to wake the hell up. Damon is having a false equivalency. How are you going to compare rumors about you cheating to accusations about your job and your career? Eugene says, yeah, and on top of that, it was put on social media. Heavenly called this man a pedophile. That is so damaging. And Damon says, well, I've been accused of being unfaithful. That's also damaging. Oh my gosh, he just don't get it. And then, King had his unnecessary comments like, shut up. Damon then brings up that Dr. G stopped taking his patients because he was in his feelings. Dr. G says, no, I stopped taking your patients because they were high maintenance patients. Dr. Damon says, no, that's not what you're doing. You were doing it out of spite. Now, let me add that in another room, the women are watching this segment, and Heavenly, that little nice moment she had with Sweetie earlier, yeah, that's gone. She is in that room calling Dr. G a cheater, a bitch, a man that can't do this, a man that can't do that. He needs to go. And Toya was being so freaking antagonistic. Quad, of course, she was saying her things too, which was expected, but it was too much. I'm so disappointed in Toya. That switch up is crazy. And I felt so bad for Sweet Tea because you've got 3 vultures talking about her husband in such a disparaging way. And there's really nothing she can say. You know what I'm saying? Like, if she were to pop off, it would be her fault in their eyes. But going back to the men, Dr. G claims that he told Damon the reason he wasn't taking his patients. Damon says no. He then says, Greg, I don't lie. Integrity is important to me. Character is important to me. And then Greg chuckles. And I'm right there with him. You're all about integrity, but you're married to Heavenly? You're all about character, but you're married to Heavenly? Greg says, yeah, okay, Damon, whatever you say, you're right, you know everything. Steve then tries to find a middle ground. Damon starts with his preacher speeches, and Dr. G ends up apologizing. I don't know why he did it. There was really no need to, but I guess just to make things better. And then Damon says, I forgive you because God told me. I can't with the gaslighting, but hopefully it's settled. So then they talk about exes and being in a trip together. Eugene's like, yeah, I wouldn't have gone on a trip with my ex. But they touch specifically at the couple's game when Quad was bragging about her boyfriend. So they ask Curtis for his opinion. Curtis says, well, I get it because all of last year, Quad had to hear Greg talk about how great his wife was. And Quad didn't have a man at the time, so, now it's okay for her to say it. So, back at the room with the other women, Simone, I guess she was biting her tongue, but she finally says, well, Quad wasn't there when Greg was talking about it, so she might have watched it on TV, but she wasn't around to hear Greg say anything about his new wife last year. So things begin to become intense. Quad says, the fact that y'all even ushered them into this group is an effing problem. Simone says, we can usher whoever the hell we want to usher in. Quad then says, shut the F up. And Simone says, no, you shut the F up. You gave us your ass to kiss, so we hung out with Greg. Simone then gets up. Quad gets in her face. They begin shouting. Security had to separate them. And Quad, y'all, she said this with her gut. She said, you dirty bitch. Simone says, you got exactly what karma had coming for you. You turn your back on people. And then Quad said, I never turned my back on you. Who was knocking on your daddy's door looking for your mother effing dad? Simone says, don't talk about my dad. You were there because there were cameras there. We've never been anywhere without cam. It was intense, you guys. I was shocked. Even though we had already seen a little bit of the fight on the trailer, it shocked me. Whew. And that was the end of part 2. Oof, I told y'all we had a lot to talk about. I mean, it was so much. But hey, guys, it was pretty upsetting seeing the gaslighting once again, the double standards. I know a lot of people don't like Simone. I'm personally not a Simone fan per se, because I do think that she be flip-flopping sometimes. But in this specific situation, I think I'm going to have to side with her because she kind of has a point. Quad can, rant and rave about how wrong it was for them to usher Dr. G and Sweet Tea into the show. But at the end of the day, the name of this show isn't the Jackie Water Show. It isn't the Toya Bush Show. And it sure as hell isn't the Quad Webb Show. This show is called Married to Medicine. This ain't Quad's show. She's on the show, but it's not her show. They can usher whoever the hell they want to. And I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, what if they usher back in Tammy? Well, if Cecile gets divorced from Simone and they bring Tammy, then they bring Tammy. I mean, that point doesn't really add up. Like, Dr. G was married to Quad. They divorced. Dr. G then got married. And they ushered him back in. Like, what is it so hard for people to understand that? It's called Married to Medicine. But anyway, you guys, this was a lot. And I just can't with Damon. What kind of crazy mentality, what type of logic is that? Where I have to prove that, like, it's on, the onus is on me to clarify that you're not a cheater. How the hell do I know what you do in your personal life? That is just beyond crazy to me. But guys, please let me know your opinions on this. Please let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one.